Welcome to Quicksand, the most important news in pharma and biotech this week. A new right to try law was passed in the US, which allows terminally ill patients to try experimental drugs outside of standard clinical trials, without needing FDA approval and as long as drug companies are willing to provide them. The FDA, which is cut out of the process of signing off on certain uses of experimental drugs for terminally ill patients by the law, now has to figure out how to implement it. FDA said in an emailed statement that it is convening an internal group to assess how to effectively and efficiently implement the new law. We will report on our implementation steps regularly. In an email to FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation and Research staff, CEDAR Director Janet Woodcock said, "We are reviewing the legislation and will work to implement it in a manner consistent with congressional intent and with FDA's public health mission. We realize that you may receive questions about this process. We will be working expeditiously to develop further information on how to respond to such inquiries. However, we believe that sponsors are in the best position to provide information on the development status of their products and whether a sponsor intends to make an investigational product available under right to try. In the near term," Woodcock told staff, "if you receive inquiries about the legislation from patients or physicians about a specific product, please refer them to the sponsor of the investigational drug or biological product. If sponsors contact you regarding their obligations under this law, we suggest that you refer them to the statute." The FDA has placed a clinical hold on Vertex and CRISPR Therapeutics' sickle cell disease candidate CTX001. The two biotechs announced an alliance on sickle cell disease late last year, co-developing CTX001, which is made with CRISPR-Cas9 technology. The drug is designed to produce high levels of fetal hemoglobin in red blood cells. CRISPR and Vertex filed to run a U.S. Phase 1-2 trial in adults with sickle cell disease last month, with a view to starting the study later this year. That target may now be in jeopardy, although the lack of details shared means the impact of the clinical hold is unclear. In a prepared statement, Vertex and CRISPR Therapeutics said that the clinical hold on CTX001 stemmed from the resolution of certain questions that will be provided by the FDA as part of its review of the investigational new drug application. Companies added that they expect to receive more information on those questions in the near future, and they plan to work quickly with the regulator to resolve them. No other details were disclosed. CRISPR and Vertex's problems with the FDA haven't spilled over into a delay in Europe, where they are still in with a shot of dosing beta thalassemia patients with CTX001 this year. The partners' exploration of CTX001 in sickle cell and beta thalassemia reflects the role the beta globin gene plays in both diseases. CRISPR thinks taking cells from patients and using gene editing tools to disrupt their genetics will lead to red blood cells that have enough fetal hemoglobin to improve outcomes. Vertex bought into the idea late last year when it picked CTX001 as the first co-development project in its collaboration with CRISPR. Vertex paid $105 million upfront in 2015 to enter into the collaboration. A year and a half after FDA officials called for including adolescent patients in adult oncology clinical trials, the agency has issued draft guidance providing recommendations to industry on how to do so. The draft guidance, which addresses many of the issues laid out in a 2016 article in Clinical Cancer Research, says that adolescent patients ages 12 to 17 should be eligible for enrollment in adult oncology clinical trials at all stages of drug development, when the cancer being studied or the molecular target of the drug under investigation is the same in both adults and adolescents. Specifically, the guidance provides recommendations for the appropriate inclusion criteria, dosing and pharmacokinetic evaluations, safety monitoring, and ethical requirements for enrolling adolescent patients in adult oncology trials. While FDA says that adolescents should be eligible for studies at all stages of development, the agency does make specific recommendations for adolescent inclusion in early stage trials. FDA says that adolescents should only be enrolled in first-in-human or dose escalation trials after initial adult PK and toxicity data are obtained. The agency also says that adolescent patients should only be enrolled in early phase trials when they have relapsed or refractory cancer or cancer with no curative standard treatment available. but for activity estimating and confirmatory trials, FDA says that adolescents can be enrolled at the same time as adult patients. With the knowledge that pharmaceutical sponsors can use risk evaluation and mitigation strategy or REMS requirements to block generic drugs from making a timely entry to market, the FDA released 2 new draft guidance documents on developing a shared system REMS and waivers associated with the single shared system REMS requirement. The agency said it will, according to the 11-page draft, request that applicants of the pending applications submit an authorization for disclosure that will allow the agency to hold meetings between multiple applicants. FDA will provide contact information for the product being referenced by the pending application to facilitate the development of a shared system REMS. And though FDA noted that it does not advise on the business arrangements being negotiated or arbitrate substantive disputes about the terms of contracts, the agency will set forth expectations of the applicants for the development of the shared system REMS, which may include suggested timeframes for various milestones in the process of developing the shared system and the process for submission of the proposed REMS. The other draft guidance describes how and when FDA will consider waiving a single shared system requirement and how generic drug applicants can request a waiver. The draft guidance also provides recommendations to generic drug applicants regarding how to submit and what should be included in waiver requests. The FDA made available an International Council for Harmonization draft guidance on technical and regulatory considerations for pharmaceutical lifecycle management. The 34-page draft aims to help facilitate the management of post-approval chemistry, manufacturing, and control changes for new and marketed pharmaceutical drug substances and drug products. Sections of the draft focus on the categorization of post-approval CMC changes, established conditions, post-approval change management protocols, product lifecycle management, pharmaceutical quality system and change management, the relationship between the regulatory assessment and inspection, and post-approval changes for marketed products. The draft features a decision tree on established conditions for manufacturing and control, noting when notification or prior approval is necessary based on the level of potential risk of a proposed change. FDA said the draft is intended to demonstrate how increased product and process knowledge can contribute to a reduced number of regulatory submissions, leading to a reduction in unnecessary costs and burdens for manufacturers and regulators. Thank you for listening to Quicksand, episode 33, June 4th, 2018.